What's going on, guys? All right, let's talk about proofing behavior, okay? Not proofing behaviors like obedience behaviors, down, sit, come, all that stuff. Most dog trainers understand the fact that they have to proof obedience, proof the behaviors, right? For them to become really strong in all circumstances. But do you proof the behavior, the issues that you're working on, the problems that the dog has? What do I mean by that? I give you an example. I'm working with a wonderful lady right now that has really struggled with her dog's on-leash reactivity towards other dogs for a while now, as many of you do that will watch this. So hopefully this will just make sense and help one person out there clear things up a little bit, give you something else to think about. We've had 3 private lessons so far. She's worked with other trainers. She's spent a bunch of money. She has not been able to get the relief with the reactivity that she's been looking for. She drives a good distance when we meet. She puts in the effort. She's doing all that she can to help this dog with its issues. So, first lesson is really important because I want to see how much she knows. I'm not so concerned about the dog at this moment. And so what we did in that first lesson, we worked with the owner, about the owner, focusing on the owner, her handling skills, the way she communicates with the dog. And big problem was, even though she worked with other trainers, no one had ever worked with her. No one taught her anything. That's a problem. Owner education is number one. That's paramount, right? That's what you need for true everlasting results. So that whole first lesson was really geared towards teaching her how to be a better handler, okay? And that's what she focused on until we met for the second time. Now, the second lesson, we started off focusing on the same stuff, right? A little refresher of what we did, teaching her a little bit more, putting it to practice, allowing her to make the mistakes. And then this was the first time we introduced a new dog to the picture, and that was my dog, Dante. And the only reason I did it this quick is because I knew it wasn't going to be as difficult as she has experienced before, okay? So once I introduced Dante, and I believe I talked about this before, of course the dog struggled, had some issues, you know, did its normal blow up, does what it normally does, and the owner struggled to deal with that. She's supposed to. No one has showed her differently. Once I put Dante in a down, left him where he was, and went and addressed the dog and showed her a few different things, the way we deal with it, showing the dog a different picture, it was very easy, very, very easy, and very quickly the dog just went with the flow. Like literally less than 15 minutes, we focused on working with that dog around Dante, and then he just didn't care anymore, okay? So it was a very productive lesson. Like everything went really well. She was very, very happy, and she was going to be traveling before we met again for our third lesson. So during her travels, she was, you know, had her dog with her, and she sent me a wonderful text that, you know, they had just passed several dogs and he had no issues. He did really fantastic. And that's great. That's what you want to hear, right? But it's also a false positive. All right. Many people get satisfied with that and happy, and they don't push much further. Not even close. Like, we have to do a lot more. That's where we want to be at the moment, but there's more work to be done. A lot more work to be done, right? So recently we met for our third session, and immediately I got Dante out and we went to work, and we made it a little more difficult for the dog this time. Now I had her handling her dog. I told her what to do, but in very close proximity with Dante, me moving around with Dante, her moving around with her dog all around Dante, like real life situations, okay, that she's going to encounter when she goes out in public with her dog. Just make it very realistic. And her dog did great, like did really well, and she did fantastic, like really well. But here's the thing. We could have easily ended the lesson like that. And she goes home very happy, feeling very good, feeling very accomplished, and we want that, of course, and makes me look really good, makes me look like a superstar, like, wow, this was so easy compared to what we've been through. That's not what I do, because again, that would be a false positive. Is the dog doing fantastic? Is the owner doing fantastic? Absolutely. They're right where we need them to be, right? Making real progress, for sure. And this is the first time she's felt that kind of relief. That's what we want. But now it's time to push things a little further and make things a little more difficult. We have to add a little more stress to the situation. The dog has to learn how to deal with a little more stress. But most important, the owner has to learn how to deal when things go backwards in the real world, because it will. It's going to, unless we show the dog every picture, right? So by using Dante, it makes it easy on this dog, because even if the dog tries to challenge Dante, Dante doesn't care. He's not going to pay attention to the dog. Even if the dog starts barking, it's not going to faze him, right? And so that makes this dog feel comfortable. That's the kind of dog we want to start with. Okay, we make it very simple, and we cheat to help the dog win. We cheat to help the owner win. They have to do the work, but we're not going to make it so overwhelming to them, okay? We have to show the dog a clear picture of what it's capable of doing, what it's expected to do, and we're going to let them know when they're doing the right thing. But now we're going to do the opposite. Now we're going to make it a little more difficult, because I don't want her to go home, get overly confident, and then run into this situation when she's out in public and not prepared for it, right? So the only thing I had to do to switch things up, and I told her this is going to be difficult, all I had to do was start getting Dante to bark, right? He barks on command. Just do a bark and hold on me. We're going to play tug, and you're going to bark. So of course, the second he starts going into his full-blown bark and hold, this dog can't handle that. That's going to set the dog back. And now he's at his worst. But now it's my opportunity to start helping the owner while the dog's at its worst. She has to know how to deal with that. Because you see, if she could deal with that in front of me, and I could help her, and I could allow her to make the mistakes and work her through them, that's what's going to prepare her for the real world if they encounter something like that. But also think about it this way. We don't want the dog to see the picture we're showing him now when she's not with me, when she's not in a controlled environment. We want the dog to see that picture now so we could train, we could work through it, we could continue the teaching, okay? And I'm not going to lie, it was difficult. It was difficult. I put a lot on the owner to do, but that's done purposely, right? It's what's going to make her better. And we put a lot of time into that area where the dog struggled. Once I saw the dog is trying and the owner's trying very hard, then I started backing off just a little bit, making the pressure just a little less, maybe a little less barking, right? A little less insanity. So the dog's still struggling, but it's easier to work through. And we're showing how the owner could make progress, okay? We spent a good amount of time doing that. It was a lot of work. It was not easy. It was not easy. But now the owner knows what she's up against if they encounter a dog that's going to behave like that when she's out in the real world, out on a walk, at a park, or traveling, whatever she encounters. Eventually, they're going to run across a dog that has the same issues that her dog has, and it's going to blow up. Has your dog been able to deal with that in training? Has to. That's where it starts. This way, when they encounter that in the real world, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal, okay? So when we were done doing that, like I said, I backed off and made things a little bit easier so we could have some success. And then we finished the lesson the same exact way we started. Back on the walking trails and doing normal things, walking by each other, approaching each other, stopping both dogs, talking, having conversations. And her dog did great. He went back to doing really well, right? Was he a little more apprehensive and waiting for Dante to start barking again? Absolutely. Absolutely. You could tell his demeanor was not as relaxed as it was when we first started. When we first started the lesson, he did great. Now he's like, wait a second, is this crazy dog going to start barking at me again, right? But he did great, right? And the owner did fantastic. That's the picture I want them to have before they leave. That's how I want to end it, okay? But I also want that dog to see, okay, this is the same dog that was just doing that thing that really upset me. But now this is the same dog that I'm just hanging around, and this is a normal situation. We want to show the dog every picture possible. Every picture possible, right? In training. We want to show the owner every picture possible in training. So when she's in the real world and she encounters something, it's not so difficult to deal with for the owner or the dog. That's what I mean by proofing behavior. So too often we see dogs that struggle around other dogs, right? It's one of the most common things we all deal with as dog trainers. And then we always see the Home Depot and the Lowe's trips. And I get it. I get it. There's value in it, right? I don't do that very often unless there's a specific reason to do so. But the truth is, in those Home Depot trips and those Lowe's trips, if you do encounter other dogs, they're usually going to be dogs under control, not going crazy, barking and screaming. You understand? So it gives people a false sense of success. And we don't want that. We want to be very honest and realistic with our approach. And we want the owner to be educated enough that she can work through any situation, right? That the dog understands, I have to pay attention and respect you no matter what, even if I think that thing over there is going to kill me, right? So proofing behavior, when you're working with those difficult, unwanted behaviors, of course, we're going to set the dog up for success, set the dog up to succeed in the beginning. We're not going to overwhelm them. But like with everything else, guys, a certain amount of stress is very necessary for the dog to be able to get through life successfully and be able to deal with things that normally would freak them out. We want to get them to a point where, hey, that's no big deal. Hey, so what? That dog's barking at me. He's trying to get to me. That no longer bothers me. That's the end goal. That's where we want to get. So when I talk about true everlasting results, that's part of it. We have to prepare for that. So I hope this helps just one person that's dealing with this. If you're someone that's just a pet owner and you're working with a trainer, look for these things. Are you doing this? Is your trainer educating you? Are they giving you a good education? Are you progressing with your training? And is your trainer putting you in more difficult situations that you have to deal with, that you have to know how to handle, that your dog has to deal with, that your dog has to know how to handle? These are little things that are needed for a lifetime of success, okay? I hope this helps. Peace.